All right. Well, welcome to another live stream of me just playing around in Blender. I don't know if anybody wants to watch these things or not, but what the heck? I figure I'm playing around in it anyway. Might as well share it with you guys. So, as you can see there, let me move that chat window over here a little bit so I can keep an eye on what I'm doing a little bit better. All right. So, as you can see here, I've made some progress since the last time I streamed. I don't get to work on this, but just a couple hours here or there. But made some progress. I've got the back end of the truck a lot closer to done, and it is broken up into multiple pieces. And what that means is, we'll get rid of everything. So the basic truck is this, which will allow me to, as I'm designing it, make other pieces. For instance, like I could do a hitch for a semi-trailer here, and could even print and make a semi-trailer, which would be cool. And then, of course, if you do just the bed bottom, you've got a flat bed. Or you can do just the bed bottom and the bed rails, and you've got a military truck that looks like that there, which is kind of cool for hauling stuff around or whatever, Again, this is all scaled in for a 1/18 scale action figures. So like G.I. Joe, Marvel Universe, the Marauder Task Force. And I've kind of built this truck to look more like an old school military truck, not the I've got some other designs I'm working on that's a more modern thing, but and then there's a tailgate, which I have not hinged yet. I've just designed. But there's the tailgate. If you hear some noise in the background, my son was under the weather today, so he stayed home from school. So, which is the reason I didn't stream all last week, was my son was on spring break, and my wife was also on vacation. So that meant I had a house full of people, and normally streaming is best done for me when it's just me and the dog here, because then you don't have as many background noises and distractions. I get enough distractions with the phone as it is, and my whole livelihood and business and everything all runs off that thing. So I get lots of texts and phone calls and stuff as it is. But add into that my wife being home and demanding of my time, honey-do lists, and just wanting to generally spend time with me, which I want to spend time with her too. So that's good. It's a positive thing. And then my son being on his spring break, he was home, and he's home now, and you can probably hear him in the background. He's making a lot of noise while he's playing video games on his Nintendo Switch, laying in his bed, watching YouTube, or not YouTube, he's watching Netflix. He's watching Netflix and playing on his Switch. And I am sitting up here in my bonus room on my computer, and as you can see, playing on Blender, streaming to you guys. There's nobody tuned in yet, but I guess whenever somebody sits down to watch this later. So other things that are going on the bed. See, there's the bed rails. I got a couple different tops that I've kind of designed, and I'm not sure which I like better. There's the one that's got the kind of tapered top. But I think whenever I do put this up on Thingiverse, I'll just make all of these options available, and then people can can print it however they like it best. So this one here's got the kind of tapered sides. This one here is the more square box. And then this one here is just the rails. If somebody wanted to go through the trouble to, somebody better at sewing than I am, wanted to go through the trouble to actually get the cloth and sew together a canvas top for it. You could do a canvas top like an old school, military troop transport. But like I said, I think when I put this up on Thingiverse, I'll make all of those options available and people can print them out and use whichever one they want, which will be cool. I got a front bumper done and a rear bumper done. Since the last time, the rear bumper's really simple, just a little square in the back there. The front bumper's got a little guard up on it and everything. It's kind of cool. I like it. Since the last time I streamed, I made doors. I also fleshed out more on the body so that there's, like, I guess these would be like fuel tanks here. And on the cab step, I still have to go through and hinge the doors because there's no hinges on the inside yet. I'll have to go through and design the hinges for that and the hinges for the tailgate. And then I will have to build out an interior, so I'll have to make a seat. Right now leaning towards probably more of a bench seat, and a dash and a steering wheel. But that's where I'm at with it right now. Again, as I've said in the past, I'm sure somebody who actually knows what they're doing in Blender would come in here and go, what in the world are you doing? You're doing this wrong and this wrong and this wrong. But this is just for fun, and whatever I create, I want to share with the community out there, both toy collectors who own a 3D printer and just the 3D printing community in general, which the 3D printing community in general is really been very, very nice people. I don't have a printer yet, so I guess I'm not technically part of the community. I'm just designing stuff that can be 3D printed. Which, on the subject of printers, the new Creality Ender 3 came out, or well, got announced recently for pre-sale, and the price is right on it. The build volume is smaller than I want it to be, but at that price, I'm tempted because it's like 180 bucks, 190 bucks, whatever it is. I think when it first came out, some websites had it for 150 on pre-sale, but all of those websites have since sold out at that price. There's still a website out there right now that you can pre-buy it at 189, but they're saying it's not going to ship till like May. And shipping from China, who knows how long that'll take. So I don't know. I've been hesitant to pull the trigger on it for a couple of reasons. One is the first line of a printer, the first run of a printer to come out is often rife with issues. So I don't know if I should even be considering something that hasn't been out on the market and tested and tried, considering it'll be my first and for a while only 3D printer. So that's kind of holding me back on that front. The price being right on it, though, it's tempting because I've got the money in the budget that I could actually order it right now. So I'm still toying with the whole, do I pull the trigger on a smaller printer than I really want, but at least it would be large enough, because it's 220 millimeters by 220 millimeters on the X and the Y, and 250 millimeters on the Z. So that you're looking at, what 22 millimeters is, that's fairly good size, and using it to kind of compare to, I guess, the toys that I'm using to help in scaling these, like this truck I'm building right now. will not be that different in scale. Camera will not be that different in scale to this. And so measuring it out, I mean, this thing is 14 centimeters wide. And so, I mean, if you're talking about a build volume that's 22 centimeters wide, well, I've got the width, and it's broken up into parts. So the longest part I've got right now is the bed piece. And the bed piece display, this measure it tool thing is awesome. I had measured that up the other day. I guess I lost the measurements on it. This bed piece right here is the longest single piece that I have. My concern is it is slightly longer. I might have to break it up into multiple pieces if I get a printer that small, because again, I guess you get to see the use of the measure it tool. I'm going to select that vertice and that one. Click on segment, and as you can see, so my options would be to shorten it by like 3 millimeters, which would be, you know, negligible, but we'd be talking about it would have to be able to use its full build volume at that. So I could shorten it by 3 millimeters and make it fit, or I could try printing it on its end, which again, I don't have enough experience with 3D printers to know if just adding enough brims to that I could print it on its end. I don't know. So again, probably a question better asked of somebody who owns a 3D printer that could tell me. So yeah, I'm going to continue chugging away on this thing. I still need to, on these holes here, I need to line all of these pieces up better so that I can make the holes in the back bed piece. Which might allow me right there to get, go to the top-down view here. Might allow me to shorten that bed 3 millimeters that I would need to shorten it anyway, once I line those up better. Because when I was building this, I wasn't being real precise with my placement of this stuff. But yeah, I still need to cut the holes in the bumpers. And I need to cut the holes in the bed bottom, so that the screws, if you choose to screw it together, can go all the way through. But as you can see, these little dog bone looking pieces fit in those parts that will bridge together these individual frame pieces. And that will allow whoever's deciding to sit down and print this, they will be able to, as I develop more and more pieces that work with this system, they'll be able to print out however many pieces they need with axles, however many pieces they need that don't have axles, that just are joining pieces. Like as you can see, this here, it will screw into just this front clip here, and then this next one will screw into the cab, and then these next 3 will all screw into the bed. Now I thought about breaking the bed up so that its pieces were the same length as these, and I may still do that. What that would allow people to do is print however many bed segments they want, and then they could make the bed as long as they want. You could even do something ridiculous if you wanted to, and make a extremely long bed, something that would be far beyond anything reasonable. I don't know. I may still go through and do that. That wouldn't be that hard to do, because I would literally just take a plane and slice it at those spots, and then model in some registration marks so that when you put the 2 pieces together, they would mate up nicely for gluing. I don't know. That might be a good idea. But you can see, using the measure tool kind of gives us a idea of how long things are. The bed being the longest part right now is, like I said, currently 223, call it, millimeters. And these were loosely based off of photographs of other old military trucks, and then some other toys that I have, and using a ruler to measure them, and ruler and calipers. They're cheap little calipers that came in a toolkit. I need to get some good calipers. But using the calipers and metal ruler that I have, I've been kind of measuring everything out and trying to keep scale where I want it. All right, so let's go ahead and, what the heck, let's go ahead and start working on the cab a little bit. I'm going to hide the doors for now. Now I think the cab might need, I'm going to go ahead and build a floor in it, because while you could use that for the floor, well, and maybe I should just go ahead and use that for the floor. I don't know. There's nobody in here right now to ask. No, I think I'm going to build a floor, because what I'll need is I'll need mounting points for interior pieces like the seats. So we're going to hit tab. That's how you switch modes in this, is, object mode. We want to go into edit mode, so we hit tab. And tab will bring me back and forth between object and edit mode. In edit mode, I'm going to face select. Now, in this case, what I think I'm going to do, and sometimes the software doesn't like this, the bridge tool doesn't work real well sometimes. I'm going to, let's try these first, just these 2. I'm going to select and go to Tools, down to Loop Tools. I'm going to hit Bridge. Look like this one bridged okay. All right, now something I'm not sure of, if I bridge another one right next to it. Okay. And I'm wondering, I bet that is caused by, all right, so just for, I don't know why I did that. That was weird. Okay, so I'm going to delete all the interfaces here, because, as I said on a previous video, we need the object to be manifold, and interfaces inside the model is bad. We don't want those. So I'm going to take all the interfaces out, so that I can just select these edges directly across from each other. Face. You hit F and it creates a face when you select edges across from each other. And I meant to hold down Shift and did not. Okay. F to create a face. For some reason that I selected something somewhere. I'm just going to unselect it. There we go. The top one will be easier because I won't have to keep switching my viewport around. Alright, so now we have a floor in there that should be manifold, so it should be printable. It's going to create, require the use of a little bit more material, but it'll also create a spot that I will be able to anchor seating to. And a lesson I learned is every step, any major change or step I make at this point, I try to remember to save along the way. Alright, so I'm going to leave the cab at that spot for right now. Tap in edit mode on this. Okay, so it's mirrored right now. I'm struggling with whether I should go ahead and apply the modifier. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I plan to add to this before I apply the mirror modifier that I want to make sure as I change it applies to both sides, because recreating this, especially after subdividing the fender and subdividing the fender and using a Boolean operator to connect it to this portion of the body, would be difficult to go back and have to fix or redo. I think we're okay. All right, so just safe side, save it again. We're going to go back out to the object mode. We go to the modifiers tab right here. In the modifiers tab, you can see here there's a mirror modifier. We're mirroring along the y-axis. Okay. Going to go ahead and apply that. What that does is now that is, once you've applied it, that's created one solid piece. It's no longer just a half. So we have one solid piece. Go back into face select mode. And I think we may be better to go ahead and put a floor in here too. Maybe. I don't know. One thing that might be kind of cool, I would like to see somebody attempt to turn this into an RC project at some point, and maybe I will if I ever get to the point where I've got a printer and I've got it printed out, and I'm no good with soldering and stuff, so I don't know about that, but I would like to see someone turn it into an RC project. And the cool thing about leaving some empty space is you leave space for components like that. So one train of thought would be to leave that as it is and build the footwell out from the floor of the cab And that would kind of give another way that those are interlocking themselves together. But I don't know how much of that they'll need, you know, because like I said, it's got holes for you to screw it together. If you don't want to screw it together, a good strong glue should do the trick. Or for, you know, extra strength, you could use both glue and screws. I decided that I didn't think it was necessary to hinge the hood and put a motor inside, you know, you know, motor facade inside. So I'm not going to on this. But I will put, when I put the designs up on Thingiverse, you know, the beauty of sharing the STL files is if somebody wants to open them up and modify them to their own means, they will be able to do so. Which I'm kind of excited about seeing what people will do with some of the things that I've designed, and just using my platform as a springboard for whatever it is they want to design and make themselves. It'd be kind of cool. All right, well, I'm going to leave the whole footwell discussion completely alone for a minute and just go on to let's start making a seat. Let's do that together today. So we're going to make a cube, scale the cube down, scale it till it's small enough to manage a little bit. Looks like about the right width. Let's make the back of the seat first. So we're going to scale along the X. We're going to bring it in to where it's pretty flat. Scale along the Z. Which, if you couldn't tell, I'm a baseball fan. And my Royals are playing right now, and they're losing. I think there's going to be a lot of that this year, though. I'm prepared for it. All right, so view this thing from side view. I'm going to rotate it out a little bit, because when's the last time you've seen a seat that was perfectly flat backed, right? All right, so that's going to start as our base for our back cushion. And like I said, I think this old style military truck like this is best suited for a bench seat. Actually, I'm going to undo that rotation real quick here. Oh, it won't let me. It won't let me undo. All right, well, that's fine. All I was going to do was rotate it back up for a second here. My mouse is not the most precise mouse. That's okay. That's still going to get my general seats just too thick. Thin it out a little bit. Now I'm going to rotate it. Let's go about there. I think a bench seat lends itself better to the aesthetic of an old truck like this. Scale along the Y a little bit, narrow it out just a little bit more, because I think we're going to... Oh, they're losing even worse. Okay. So let's extrude, scale along just the Y-axis, the extrude. Just go out a little ways. And I'm now realizing I should have done all the modeling before I angled it. Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's what I was afraid of. All right. So this is why I share these things, so that you all can see that sometimes you make mistakes and you just got to start over. So we're going to make another new cube. And we won't angle the seat until we've actually finished modeling it. Because I think I'll also be able to make my bottom side of my seat easier. Just duplicate the pad from the top and then modify it. So we won't angle this until we're finished modeling it. Face select mode, we'll select these two faces. We'll hit E to extrude, then we'll hit S to scale, and Y to constrain it to the Y. That way I can move both sides out at the same time. And then we're going to scale them along the Z. Extrude, scale, constrain it to the Y. Add a little more. Scale them to just the Z. Extrude, scale, constrain to the Y. Scale along the Z. Alright, let's see how that looks. Alright, so now I'm going to select the whole thing and we'll scale it along the Y in a little bit, because those extrusions made it wider than I wanted it to be. Bring it in about there. Scale along the Z a little bit too, I think. Alright, now I'm going to... I've never had any luck with the whole bevel operator. But I'm going to try it and see if I can get it to do. Yeah, it messed up all sorts of things. I'm going to do that. So instead, I'm just going to try a ring cut. And I'm going to scale them along the X. A bevel should be a great thing, but for some reason, for me, it just isn't. So I've had horrible luck with the bevel command and trying to, the bevel modifier, and trying to get the rounded edges I want. And even when I follow steps online, it doesn't seem to do the same thing for me that it does for them. And so I know I'm doing something wrong, but I'm not entirely sure what. All right. So we go into face select mode. Like I said, somebody who knows what they're doing in Blender would look at what I'm doing and they would absolutely cringe. Because I don't have what you would call a proper design process. I'm not a professional. I don't even play one on TV. Scale that down just a little. And I'm going to scale it out on the X a little. And what that's going to do is create a similar effect to a bevel, but not quite. But close enough, I think, for our purposes. And my neighbor's mowing. So if you can hear that in the background, I apologize. Scale that on the X. And then we'll go back into vertex select. Hit B so we can do a box selection. Yep, my neighbor's mowing. That way he'll make my lawn look worse. So I'll have to go out and mow. Just another thing to have to find time for, right? Okay, that kind of gave me the rounded pad look I was looking for. I think. scale that one out, back out just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. And we might do a mesh smooth on the whole thing before we call it good. Now let's make that a little higher so that what I'm doing now is I'm adding a ring cut here and here, so I can do some more details on the seat. Something to make it look more upholstered. Actually, I don't need the back side because it doesn't need detail. The back side of the seat will be facing the back of the cab, and you don't upholster details into that side anyway. So let's go back into face select. We'll deselect that face. Now, extrude that out just a hair. Scale it in just a hair. Then we're going to go back into edge select. I'm going to select those edges and scale them back out a little bit. Scale them along the Z only, just a little bit. And then move them back in just a little bit along the X. Hey, Walter. What's going on, man? I'm just playing around in Blender and getting text messages. And my neighbor's mowing and my dog doesn't like it, and suburban living. All right. Huh, I don't know what could cause that. Hopefully, okay, well, maybe it's a YouTube in general issue right now. I wondered where everyone was. I thought maybe something had to be up. So I'm going to hit I to inset the faces a little bit. And for some reason, inset doesn't scale very much, so I just inset them just a little bit, and then I actually hit enter, and then I hit S to scale. Actually, I want those still selected. Because I'm going to move them out just a hair. Okay, I will try to make sure I explain everything. I'm trying to, say out loud or remember to when I do stuff, like in which keys I hit, the hotkeys and stuff like that, so that if somebody wants to follow along or learn, they can do so. Um, I still don't know all the hotkeys, but I know the most important ones. All right, so I'm going to hit tab so that I'm back out into object mode. And we can see in object mode, you get a better look at your shape, and that's looking a little more like I want it to look. We might add a modifier to it, and where is it at? Oh, might add a subdivision surface modifier to it, because what we're trying to make is the padding for the seat back, and want this to try to make it look fairly realistic, but it doesn't have to be hyper realistic. It's going in a 1/18 scale toy. Not trying to do a precision scale model of anything. I don't know, that looks kind of like a and to see the render view, if you hold down shift and hit Z, now this may mess with my stream. It will show you the cycles render, which is the render that there's a couple different renders you can choose. The cycles render is the more realistic looking render. If I hold down shift and hit Z, we will lag the stream badly and slow everything down, but you can kind of get a look of what it's looking like in render form, which is what it'll look like when it's closer to what it'll look like when it's printed. And that's kind of got that rounded, cushiony shape I was going for. So I'm going to hit Shift Z again to stop killing my CPU and lagging the stream. Yeah, it is kind of hard to do this stuff when you're the only one here, because you feel weird sometimes just talking to yourself, because that's I'm like, that's essentially what I'm doing right now. It's just what I had been doing was just talking to myself. Now, something I haven't been able to find, and I did a search for it online, and it seemed like multiple people have the same problem. Blender doesn't seem to have a way to allow me to inset the faces, where I can select multiple faces but inset them isolated to themselves. Like if I were to select all these faces, which is what I want to do, is inset all of them, but I don't want to inset them together as one piece. I want to inset them exclusively to each face, and it doesn't seem that Blender lets me do that. So the other way going about it is to inset each one individually, but the problem doing that is insetting them an equal amount. Now this won't be critical because this is a more organic shape because it's a pad. But I've ran into some problems when I was trying to do this to create vents on a hard surface, and you want those vents to come up and you want them all to be exactly the same and evenly spaced apart, that it created a problem for me trying to do that. So like I said, this is being a little bit more organic and rounded and soft shape. It won't hinder me that badly using this one, so I can literally go in and I can inset this one individually and inset this one individually and just kind of eyeball them to keep them in the same ballpark. I'm hitting the I key to inset the face. And so what that's doing is just making that face smaller, but creating the faces around it necessary to allow that to happen. Inset. And I'm just kind of quickly doing this, and like I said, because it's not mission critical that it be exactly the same. So I'm going to go through and select each one of these. And now that I've inset them and it created the faces around them, when I move them out a little ways, it'll create that kind of bumped out shape to it. And now, looking at it with a mesh smooth on it, bump that up to 2. That's looking better. That's looking more like what I want. But I still want those to be a little deeper, a little better defined. I don't know if just moving them out will do that. Alright, well, it's probably going to lag the stream again in the process, but Shift Z, here we go. Yeah, this is rendering super slow and probably lagging the stream. I can't really see on my end. It's a little better, but I wish I had a little bit firmer edge on those creases. I don't. Edge select here. Which it looks like I have some edges that maybe aren't playing nice with each other here. Maybe if I go back through and add weight to those edges. The Z key switches you back and forth between wireframe view and regular view. So Z. where did... I'm gonna have to pull something up real quick here. Blender. Hard edge subsurf. And it's purple, so you can see I looked it up once before. Keeping a sharp edge. Oh yes, creases. Shift E, that was crease. Alright. So go back here. And then we'll select make a crease there. I'll select all these panels around here. Outer edge. Okay. Now what if I make those edges harder and then move them back a little? That's kind of giving me the little bit more defined edge I was looking for. Okay, so Shift E creates a crease when you're doing a subdivision modifier. So you can see all those pink edges there, those are where I've created creases. I wonder if I scale that in a little bit, if I can harden that edge a little bit. Move it out a little bit. Alright, so here goes nothing. It'll probably... Yeah, later, Walter. Thanks for stopping by, man. I'll lag my stream out again doing this. It's Shift Z. Hopefully it doesn't totally crash everything. I can tell there enough it's looking like a seat cushion, so I'm going to stop that. I can tell it's taking its toll on the stream right there. So sorry in advance for that, but I need a newer computer that it won't totally lag out the stream every time I have to render. But yeah, I can see that the subdivision modifier is doing what I want it to do a little more. It's kind of adding those individual kind of bumps in the seat. I'm going to save this where it's at. And I'm going to experiment with actually, I'm going to just go to face select mode here. I'm going to select these faces. I'm going to try creasing them a little bit and see if it. Soften that a little bit. All right, so what I'm trying to get in the better habit of doing as well is naming that. So we're going to call that seat back. We're tab back out into object mode. While holding shift, if you hit D, you will duplicate an object. Then hit enter. I'm just going to duplicate it in place for right this second. Rotate it 90 degrees. And then we'll scale it along the X a little bit. And I think I'm done modeling details on this. So again, let's save just in case I just change my mind here in a minute. Let's go ahead and rotate the seat back. I'll scale that along the Z and make it a little thicker. Down. Out. Oh. All right. Actually, maybe move it up and let them touch, let them overlap each other. It's fine. It's a toy. And I think what we'll do is we'll build a base under it that connects to the floorboard, and then we will use a Boolean operator to blend it all together. I'll have to be more careful with positioning before doing the Boolean, so as not to create complete havoc for myself with where they overlap. But it's It's looking like a bench. I don't know. If you don't like it, leave comments below, and when I check on those later, I will see that. But yeah, I think it's coming along. And when we unhide the doors, definitely making progress. So I'm going to put the squared bed top on there. I like that one the best. Oh, zoomed out too fast. So you can see where we're at right now. Maybe I need to move that up just a hair. That's why I want to put the doors back on and see what it looks like with the doors on. I'll have to take some measurements on it and stuff before I finalize the seat bracket, but we'll make a seat bracket for it. We'll use the measure it tool in Blender to take some measurements, and I will take measurements based upon a figure. I'll actually use the measurements from calipers and ruler on a figure, and that will determine the final dimensions and angles on the seat, and then I will build a seat bracket according to that, and then build a mounting point on the floor for the seat bracket, and the bench seat will be done. The hardest thing I have left to do is hinging the doors. That is always a nightmare for me, and largely because I'm just eyeballing it and guessing. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing when it comes to to any of it really, but to designing the hinges for the door, to make sure that they will have the proper clearances to swing out. But you can see that we're going to go to display. We're going to hide the measurements for now because they're just kind of in the way. But we'll make measurements on the seat, and then we'll compare them to the figures and to one of the figures, and then we will modify the seat accordingly. And this should sit 3 figures in it, side by side, and then we still got to build some benches and stuff for the back because I want to make it like a troop transport. And a dashboard and a steering wheel. Hinge the doors, hinge the tailgate, finish drilling using Boolean operators to drill the holes through this piece, and maybe mock up some sort of mechanical connection point for the bed bottom to connect solidly to this without having to glue it in place. Maybe some sort of, I don't know, some sort of locking mechanism. I'll sit down and sketch some ideas out for that. But everything else has locking points already made for it. When you run the screws through it, it'll hold it solid. Progress has been made. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off of here, but I thought I'd update everybody on my progress and share a little bit of the building with you guys. If you like what you're seeing, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell if you want to be notified whenever I'm live streaming again, so you can join in with me and we can chat while I figure all this stuff out. Like I said, I don't do nearly as much pre-planning and designing, engineering prior to actually just sitting down and making stuff in Blender. I like it to just come kind of right off the top of my head most of the time, and which leads me to moments where I have to delete something and redo it. But so be it. That's just my creative process, and it's when it feels the most satisfying to me when I come up with something and it comes out, you know, just like I see it in my head, and it comes out on the screen, and it's an exciting process for me. So anyway, still working on saving up the money for a 3D printer. That's like I said, I may pull the trigger on that Ender 3, but um, the way I'm looking at it, with it being a pre-purchase, if I were to buy it and it's not exactly what I want, I'm still looking at it's shipping in like May, and that's probably to the people who ordered it first, which I would not be anywhere near that list. So figure it wouldn't get here till June anyway, and June was when I was looking at buying the printer. I one of the printers that I'm most interested in. So maybe I should just go ahead and wait and order it in June when I can get the one I want, that has the build volume that I want, so I don't have to worry that oh, this piece is a couple millimeters too long, or constrain my future designs to that build volume. So that's where I'm at. That's what's going on. If you like it, like I said, subscribe, leave me a thumbs up, comments below. They're always welcome. I will answer any questions. You can also find me over on Twitter, which is at Tanner_3D on Twitter. Or check out Tanner3D.com. I plan on posting another blog update on it today. Just kind of recapping what's happening here in the video and what I've done so far. But we'll see you all in the future, and thank you for stopping by. Appreciate y'all.